I love that you just released your album title. I think that's awesome. Tell me a little bit about that, because I want to dive right into all of that.
Oh yeah.
I'll go. Yeah. The new record is called "Always Only Jesus," which is track 5 on the record. Yeah, actually. Our last record, Inhale Exhale, we've joked around and called that our COVID record because we weren't doing anything else, no touring, so we just made a bunch of music. Ended up with 30 to 40 songs for that record, and in the process of that record, deciding not that it had a theme, but we kept steering towards songs that we just wanted to have fun with. We didn't feel like writing another Even If at the time, and so there were certain songs like Then Christ Came that we started during that period that we intentionally kind of held on to because we just felt like it was for something else, a different project. And so finished Inhale Exhale, that came out, and realized we had at least a handful of songs that we really wanted to finish. And so we did a tour, came back, started working on those songs, and had intended to do maybe an EP of 5 or 6 songs. We ended up writing 5 more, and it became a full record, which we're happy about. We were ready to. We loved Inhale Exhale, but we had these other songs that we knew we were ready to move on to. So that's where we are.
That's awesome. I love that with the title of it, Always Only Jesus, how it's so focused on Jesus. And like you shared on Instagram, that's what this one is so focused on for your album. Obviously, your music is focused on pointing people to Jesus, but I love the simplicity of the title and how you're doing this. Even a lyric like, and then Christ came, every song I sing will be for him. I love that. So tell me about the fact that MercyMe has been MercyMe for 28 years. This is a calling on your life that you've served for 28 years. Not every one of you have been in the band for 28 years, but that calling on your life, the sacrifice maybe to keep doing it, but just serving Jesus for 28 years and singing for him.
Man, I don't know. I don't think it has ever felt like a sacrifice to do it. I mean, it's so funny how people go, man, thank you for the, like literally the sacrifice you're making is like, nah, dude, this isn't really a sacrifice. This is us avoiding hard labor for the most part. But we're guilty of really, really loving our jobs and the calling, and we still like being around each other, and we think it's the greatest job in the world. And so it's been our pleasure to do this for 28 years for sure. And it's cool because like the album being called Always Only Jesus, I think for us it was important because our last album, Inhale Exhale, was the album we made during the pandemic, and with so much time on our hands, like in some ways, like we weren't reinventing the wheel or anything, but we kind of were trying to flex a creative muscle just because we had so much time to revisit and write and just had fun kind of going down that path of just writing songs like Whiplash that talks about quit trying to look back at your past, just quirky ways of saying things that you've said before, and we got that out of our system, and it definitely saved us during the pandemic. But even for us, this album, to say, man, with where the body of Christ is, it seems like there's more division now than ever, and people drawing lines in the sand and whatever. And it's like, man, we've got to find that commonality, like that, how do we address this? And we realize that we have to be able to all agree that it's about Jesus. And that was for us personally, like for coming out of Inhale Exhale to this it's pretty exciting because it feels like what MercyMe's done in the past, like with God With Us and all of creation and songs like that. And so there was something really, it felt really good to kind of fall back into this album, I guess. It's more really, really excited about people hearing it, and hopefully they dig it. If they don't let us know. So be quiet.
Well, that's awesome. Tell me about, for listeners who may not know, like each of your stories, how you came to know Jesus.
I was born at a really young age.
Hmm.
Now I'm speaking for myself, but most of us grew up in a godly home with, Christian parents that instilled Christ in us from a time we were born. And so I've never known anything other than going to church on Sunday and Wednesday night youth group. And I was even homeschooled, and, my curriculum in school was, full of Christ. So I've never known anything else. And I've always thought I've never had a testimony because of that. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that the best testimony I had is not what God brought me out of, but what he kept me from getting into. And so I think there are a lot of things that I could have fallen into traps and stuff had I not had Christ as the center of my life. And so that's my story.
That's awesome.
Similar story. I grew up in a Christian home. I walked down the aisle and, accepted Jesus into my heart at 7, got baptized. It was probably about 18 when I really started to pursue Christ and just recognize that I did have a part to play, not in my salvation, but like in obedience and becoming a disciple. And so, and like Robbie, it was like, well, I haven't really done anything wrong. I'm not this horrible sinner or whatever. And then when you mature in your faith and you recognize, like, yes, I am. I was born into it. I can't get away from it. But for the grace of God, we're free from it. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole grace thing's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, we're all fairly similar. I grew up in a Christian home. My dad actually became the pastor of our church as I was going into my teenage years. So I was a PK. But didn't go through I guess because it was later in life, I never went through the weird rebellious preacher's kind of phase. So
Yeah.
Still waiting for that rebellious phase.
Yeah. That's why we had to make this album to remind him to calm down, Nathan.
Yeah.
That's right. That hair, mister.
No.
Yeah, I came to know Jesus when I was 13 at church camp, and I kind of like what Mike was kind of talking about. It's like, when you're drowning, you don't do much to help save yourself from drowning. And so I felt like I got thrown a life preserver and was covered by Jesus from 13. I think it was a little bit later, probably my father passed away, to when it kind of clicked for me of like, oh shoot, this is what I have. And so, yeah, that was the moment when I started something happened to where I was like, man, this is what I'm supposed to do the rest of my life is tell people about Jesus. And, but yeah, I think Mike was almost killed in a car wreck, and it kind of woke him up.
I almost killed another guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really wasn't that dramatic, but when you're 18 and you hit somebody,
When you're in high school, it
was scary. But and that for me, it was like a moment of recognizing like I wasn't as in control as I thought I was. And because when you're 18, you're
so
totally
in
control of everything. Yeah. You're making all the right decisions.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely played a role in me refocusing.
Yeah. So each of you are dads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you talked about your coming to know Jesus, and tell me about, like, it's such a big question, but like your responsibility as dads then to point your kids to Jesus, because you're singing to the world about who he is, but you also have your leaders in your own homes. So tell me about what that's been like for each of you.
I think it's a challenge no matter what. I think it's in some ways maybe more of a challenge, because almost like you hear stories about preachers' kids, kind of having a wild side. I don't know if, but if that's the case, I can see how that could be an issue, because you see your dad as a preacher, giving everything to his church, and you come home and the first thing you want to do is kind of turn it off because it's a safe place. But then your family's like, wait, where's the amazing, preacher? And I think there's probably a little bit of that being our kids. They're, sometimes you have to be kind of on all the time. And when you come home, it's like, initially it's like, this is a safe spot where I can be myself and not, be whatever the stage sometimes requires of us, or MercyMe does. And the challenge is that hopefully they're not far apart. They definitely, they definitely see the good side and the worst sides of us. And I just did a podcast a few days ago, and they were asking, it was about being a dad, and they said, what is it you hope your kids say about you when they're older? And I was like, man, I hope they can say that I tried, not that I got it right all the time, not that I was perfect, whatever, but that I was at least trying. And that's, it's all that we all can kind of honestly say, is that, because we're definitely going to get things wrong. There will definitely be counseling at some point in their life, but it's like, it's the worst thing could be the ones that just don't care and don't put forth the effort. And so, man, it's a weird balance to sing about Jesus and then to talk about Jesus at home. And there's sometimes you feel like the enemy will tell me that they've heard it enough, like to keep your mouth shut's the thing that I'll wrestle with when I'm home. And so that's one thing where the pandemic actually helped me a ton, was to be able to genuinely step away from what MercyMe is and just figure out who I am as a father and a husband, if it is any different or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more of a different side of, being a dad. It was cool to see you brought your daughter with you to New York.
Oh, yeah.
Just seeing some of the other fun things that you guys have done with your kids. Do you have any special traditions that you do with your kids? Maybe one-on-one things that you're like, yeah, I'm making a point. My son or my daughter loves this. This is what we do together.
For us, we've kind of given each of our kids a trip when they turned 13 with just mom and dad. We shot for the moon the first time. We had to scale it back. Our oldest, he's almost 18 now. He wanted to go to Alaska. He wanted to ride snowmobiles, ride a dog sled, and see a glacier. So we rode snowmobiles to a glacier. We told the rest of the kids continental.
You raised that bar pretty
lower
quick,
48
pretty high.
guys. Yeah. So but that's been a fun tradition, just to as they're starting to go through all the weird teenage stuff, to just have some one-on-one adventures with them. It's been a really cool thing.
Anyone else?
I think one of the things that we've done as a band is we bring our boys out on the road when they were 5, 6, a little bit old enough that they could take care of themselves and dress themselves or whatnot. But we get to bring them out on the road, see what what it's like behind the stage and what we do on an everyday basis. And then the older they've gotten to kind of where they expect at least once a tour, they get to go on the bus. And so now we've got younger siblings that we're trying to work into the mix. And so it's been fun to have them out on the road with us from time to time. It's like bring your family to work day. And so, but it's something that our kids have really enjoyed. I know that.
That's cool.
I built a big shed, and when they hit 13, I just sent them outside and said, good luck.
Oh, that's good. That's a good idea.
I'm just kidding. No.
I made them build the shed, which would be their home.
Yes.
Learn to survive.
Yes. The older my kids have gotten, the more I've asked them to trust me. And what I mean by that is to say, I'm not going to get this right all the time, but I want you to trust me that I'm trying, and know that I love you no matter what. And that's helped, especially with my oldest daughter, as she has gotten older, because there's things she just doesn't want to talk to me about. But she knows that she can.
Girls are funny that way, really.
Girls are funny. Yeah, girls are funny that way. But no, it just trying not to be a hypocrite, not asking my kids to do things that I'm not willing to do myself. And that includes, my own relationship with Christ. If I'm not taking it seriously, then why would I expect my kids to? So, yeah, I don't want to be a hypocrite.
Yeah, my tradition, yours is good. Mine is more of a, we go to great lengths to, I have 5 kids. My oldest is 20, my youngest is 11. And our goal in life is to create traditions of going on vacations together. So it's something that when they're older, we still do. And so much so that this has been the summer of me doing stuff with my individual kids, which I don't know if I've ever done intentionally, like taking Sophie to New York or Miles to Dude Perfect and stuff like that. So that's been pretty fun, but like we're back at it. Like we'll leave this weekend and go on we'll hit a couple of hopefully family trips before the tour starts, and got to get them in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks guys for your time, for your ministry, sharing your hearts. Excited for the new album. We love Then Christ Came, and thanks for all you guys do.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care.